No more struggles and stresses. No more regression. Accomplishing the inner spirit's intention. Faith plus action equals manifestation. Remain simple, humble, and always be patient. Peace and blessings, everybody. My name is Jeffon Seely. It is a wonderful honor and a great opportunity to be here with each and every one of you. This community has a bright light shining from it. I'm soaking it up. As I was sitting there, I was wondering why the music sounded so good, and I realized I'm sitting next to Kathy and Rodney, so I think that's a telltale sign. Nevertheless, I just want to say thank you, Reverend Jill, for providing me with this opportunity. I reached out to her a few months back. We're on a 2-month tour, me and my friends who you may see wandering around here, going throughout the West Coast, hoping to link with the indigenous tribes and the urban youth and empower people through music and poetry and art and visual creations, hoping to break down those barriers that may seem to separate us from one another, and recognizing the unity, the light, the essence, the energy that is dwelling within each and every one of us. The very essence and energy that enabled you to wake up this morning. The essence and energy that is dwelling at the depths of your being and is enabling your heart to beat without you even thinking about it. The essence and energy that is enabling us all to share this sacred breath that we are breathing as we are standing upon this, I was going to say fertile soil, but beautiful soil beneath us. So I just want to say thank you to Reverend Jill, to the practitioners, to everybody who helps make this community so inviting and so vibrant, shining a light of peace and love and compassion. And also, though I just met many of you and some of you I've yet to meet, thank you. Thank you just for simply being. Now you may be saying, why are you saying all this, Jeffon? But I find it incredible when I open my mind to the innumerable things that have took place in all of our lives that have aligned with such perfection to enable us to be here together in this moment of now. So I'm grateful that our experience, our essence, our energy is able to cross here. And may we all embrace this sacredness, the power and beauty, this day, this breath, this heart, of this power that is flowing through us all. So I've been on this spiritual path for right about 10 years now. I stumbled on it when I was about 5. No, I'm just joking. For the record, I know some of you guys are probably like, Jeffon, it's great to have you here, but how old are you anyways? If you're thinking that, I'm older than I look. I think I might have some grays poking through, but nevertheless. I've been on this path for about 10 years. And as I've been diving deeper into the writings and teachings of Ernest Holmes, of Charles Fillmore, of Ralph Waldo Emerson, yesterday me and my buddies had the opportunity to go to the sacred Apache land and be a part of a sunrise ceremony, which was absolutely incredible, beyond comprehension. I could write 1,000,000 books and probably still couldn't put into words the essence and energy that is flowing from this earth and from the people that are walking upon it. But as I've been traveling down this spiritual path, there's been one thing in particular that's been standing out to me. And that is how incredible this experience of life that we are all living truly is. I mean, just think about it for a moment. Right now, as we are sitting in this place, in this infinite universe that we are all a part of, there are gases, minerals, elements combining and intertwining in such a way that new stars are being formed. And as we look up into the nighttime sky, there are stars, planets clustering together in new galaxies filled with new life is being birthed. And here we are walking upon this sacred planet that is spinning orbiting in such a divine, harmonious manner, illuminated by a vibrant sun that is shining down so peacefully, yet powerfully upon it. Trees reaching towards the light. Seeds that are slowly awakening to their inherent greatness, resting in soil that has been accumulating nutrients since the beginning of time. And in this moment of now, animals scurrying on top of the planet and dwelling beneath the depths. And then there is you and I. See, there is not only this incredible universe out here that is filled with divine essence and energy, but there is also an infinite universe that is in here, within each and every one of us. Our sacred heart that is beating, our lungs that are breathing, our blood that is flowing, our cells that are dividing, our atoms that are thriving. As I've been traveling down this spiritual path, the one thing that's been standing out to me is the conscious recognition from the furthest planet to the closest atom. There was one constant, and that is God is ever present. Divine order is running through it all. Now, if you don't like the word God, that's quite all right. I have yet to find a word that can encompass the all-encompassing. So feel free to replace it with energy, your essence, or light, or love, or the universe, or the infinite intelligence. You see, what you call it matters not, for it is the very essence that enables you to speak a word out into the ethers. So here we are, each and every one of us filled with this inner essence, this divine energy, and we've been using it, filled with it, embracing it, before we took our first breath. We can all pause for a moment and look back at our life and think of the different levels of consciousness that it seems we've all went through, from times being a child, into our adolescence, into young adulthood, up to this present moment of now. And the one thing that has been constant and ever present is this glorious essence that we are speaking and gathering upon and centered with today. Just pause for a moment and breathe that in. It is always a part of you. It was with you before you even made your way here to this glorious planet that we have to call home. It will be with you after you leave. It is beyond comprehension. Yesterday, as we were watching these sacred ceremonies take place on the San Carlos Reservation, the connection with the earth, the beating of the heart, the sacredness of the person they were celebrating, reverberated through all of us. But I don't think it just stopped with us human beings. I feel that it flowed through the trees, through the rivers, through the rocks, through the logs that we collected to create a fire to end the ceremony last night. Recognizing the unity, the connection that we have with everything and everyone. Innumerable connections we have as we go throughout this life. Some of those connections may be good. Some people may have brought us happiness and peace and prosperity and joy. And some may be not so much. But I encourage you to pause often and think about all the people who have existed for you to take your first breath. Not just your parents or your grandparents, but open your mind to your great-grandparents, your great-great-grandparents, going all the way back throughout time, whose lives were absolutely essential in the development of who you are today. You will see that this golden thread, this divine order, this infinite essence and energy has been flowing with it all, and now you are filled with this life in this body temple that you are moving through this experience in. What a glorious gift. Speaking of gratitude, the song that Kathy so beautifully sung, how can we not walk in a state of gratitude? We could count, all of us, for the rest of our life, all the blessings that are around us, and we still couldn't count or label them all. There are innumerable blessings that fill our experience each moment of each day. You see, the same essence and energy that is holding the planets in space is that which enabled us to wake up today. And we are moving filled with this infinite essence, squeezing the infinite into the finite limitations of our individual imaginations. So with all of that being said, I hope you got it. With all of that being said, it's my hope today, during this sacred time that we have to share together, this moment that will only happen once, this breath that we are all breathing, the inner essence and energy that is enabling our hearts to beat. It is my hope during this time that you can be reminded of who you truly are. A light, a gift, filled with the presence of God, the universe. You matter. So I have the beautiful opportunity to travel throughout this nation and down to Honduras. I won't say like cross-continental yet or intercontinental, but to travel around and share this message of peace and love and empowerment. And people always ask me, well, Jeffon, I mean, who are you or where are you from? And as Jill said, I'm from Salt Lake City, so when people typically hear that, their first question is, I'm glad you asked. I've learned to say, well, I didn't learn. I now say, growing up, I was Mormon, but I no longer am. However, I still have family members who practice the Mormon faith, and I've learned on this spiritual path that I am upon that it is not my responsibility to approach another person and tell them what religious path they must follow, because when I look deep enough, I recognize that all paths we are walking are leading the same way. You see, we are all awakened by the same essence, by the same energy, by the same divine presence. And I'm going to keep referring to this ceremony that we went to yesterday, because everything they were doing, from the dancing to the drums to the young woman who was being honored in reverence, held in sacredness, everything that they were doing was a tribute to the Creator, the one Creator, giving praise for this Mother Earth for bringing our bodies into existence, giving thanks to Father Sky for filling us with the glorious essence, giving thanks for our ancestors who have existed before we were able to take our first breath, being grateful for who they are, and then honoring ourselves, realizing that we are accumulation of all of these divine synchronicities, these universal flows. So I grew up in Salt Lake City, and my mom was adopted from Scotland. And I was sitting in a meditation a while back and thinking of my grandparents who were on a Mormon building mission to go over to England, and my grandmother was unable to have children. So something drew them to this particular orphanage in Scotland. And I can just see my grandma and grandpa walking in there and seeing this little baby. And something must have drew them to her. And they go over there, and they grab her, they bring her back here. They did so legally, just for the record. They didn't just snatch and run. But they brought her back here with the hopes that in doing so, when this little girl got older, she would have a better opportunity at life. And if this little girl happened to have children of her own someday, so too would her children be planted in this fertile soil that they could blossom and develop in. Now on the flip side, my father is African American. My grandpa on my dad's side was raised in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And the differences between my mom's side, who were Mormon building missionaries, to my dad's side, who was born in the segregated South, is night and day. My grandpa told me at 8 years old, walking home from school, he would have to cut by this certain farm. And almost every time he would, the guy would come out with his shotgun and shoot, because his skin didn't match what the guy's consciousness said it had to be. And my grandmother on my father's side was born in Jackson, Mississippi, in the heat of racial tension. And they eventually uprooted and went to California, and then later to Salt Lake City, where my parents met. And after I was born, like I said, my parents went their separate directions. And even though my father wasn't around, I still call it a blessing in disguise. Because my sisters and I, we were able to spend a lot of time with our grandparents on my mom's side. And as we went from youth into adolescence, we started spending more and more time with our grandparents as we started witnessing our hero, our guiding light, our mother, fall victim to her own inner issues, her own darkness, addiction, drugs, substance abuse. But despite this, I still call it a blessing in disguise. Though it was difficult at the time, as I look back, I see that everything has aligned so divinely. But growing up in that certain little area of Salt Lake City, I don't know if you've been there, but it's right kind of up close towards the mountains of Mount Olympus on the east side. And it didn't take long until I started to look out into my community and recognize that things really didn't match up. It was a very close-knit community, and everybody in that neighborhood had both a mother and a father at home. And at that time, my dad wasn't around, and my mom was scraping what many would call rock bottom. Negative words, words of limitations, trying to place my sisters and I in this small box because of this experience that we seemed to be born into. On top of that, my grandparents were supporting my sisters, myself, the two of them, helping my aunt and my mom with a very, very small Social Security check. Being raised in nice communities, when your clothes don't match those little labels that cost so much, when those don't match what everyone else is wearing, sometimes people point fingers or laugh or make fun of or judge. And then on top of that, my sister and I were two of the only kids who had a slight different tint of skin. Words of discrimination and prejudice flowed forth from our peers as well as from some of our friends' parents. But despite that all, still call it a blessing in disguise. You see, witnessing my mom go through those difficult times, I realized that I cannot control what another person does, even somebody who I may love or appreciate or care for. But I realized at a deep level that any moment that a negative situation may seem to try to surface in my life, I can surround it with light and love. And I learned this at a very young age. So after I graduated high school, I left Salt Lake City, one of the hardest situations that I've actually done, and went to Seattle to reunite with my dad and go to college up there. Everything in Salt Lake was just seeming to crumble apart. My mom was entering a rehab center. My grandfather was reaching an age that all of us will eventually reach. My grandma, who helped raise me, had just passed away, and it just seemed like the world was caving in on me. And I went up to Seattle to go to school. And my friends always asked me, Jeffon, why would you go there with your dad? He wasn't around. I never even knew him. He never even sent you a birthday card. And I realized that it is not my responsibility to point my finger at somebody and say, you caused this, or you should be ashamed of this, or you are guilty for this. Instead, when these situations arise, it is my opportunity, our opportunity, to shine our light a little brighter for those who may be stuck in the darkness, to help them recognize who they truly are. So when I was there in Seattle, this is the way things work so divinely, and so the presence of God is flowing through it all. As I was up there in Seattle, my dad had one of those spiritual friends, and I'll do that. I think I am one of those spiritual friends to some. But he was the type of person who would say, Jeffon, God is good. Divine order is ever present. Look around you. Only the best can come out of these situations. And being that I came out of that seemingly dark environment, I remember arguing with him, not fighting, but verbally having a debate, for lack of better words, with him, trying to express all the reasons why I believed divine order was not possible. Pointed at my grandmother who had just passed, My sisters who were still being raised in Salt Lake City with no structure. My grandfather who was reaching that age. And I thought I made a pretty good case as to why divine order was not possible. And then he handed me a book. A book that you may have heard of. It's called A Course in Miracles. And the first line that I read in this book, I actually want to get a t-shirt that says this, so before I tell you, don't take my ideas, okay? The first line that I read said this: the real cannot be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And it was at that moment that a small door seemed to open within my conscious mind, and I began to look back at my life and thought, maybe there was a divine reason for all of these things happening in my experience. Maybe there was a hidden order, divine presence, a God essence, a light that was with me even when I felt that I was going through the darkest times. And now as I look back, my mom is nearly 10 years clean and sober. My two little sisters are both incredible, confident, amazing, beautiful young ladies. Myself, I'm able to go and meet beautiful people like you, sharing a message that unites us. And my dad is blossoming in his own unique way. And one thing I've realized is through the good and through the bad, there was one constant, always with me, and that is God was always there. Divine order was flowing through it all. And I share this story with you not so you can go home and start typing up Jeffon Seely's biography, but more importantly to encourage you to look back at your experience and recognize the mountain peaks of happiness, of love, of peace, and the low, dark valleys of despair, struggle, of stress. And recognize the one constant that has been with you through it all. God, divine order. The light of the infinite is forever illuminating your sacred path. There's a beautiful quote by Epictetus. It might be Epictetus. He's a Stoic philosopher. If I'm wrong, you can correct me afterwards. But he says, men are most disturbed not by what happens, but by their opinion of what happens. So I encourage you to be your greatest friend. When there is no enemy left inside, then the outside world can no longer affect you because you start seeing yourself flowing through it all. Not the physical self, but the infinite self that is flowing through your atoms and cells in this very moment. And as you start to stand upon this truth, you begin to see that each moment of each day is an opportunity to celebrate you, to celebrate the life that you are, to celebrate the essence that is ever present. And then as you start to recognize that at a deep conscious level, you then step out into the world and be a guiding light for others who may be failing to recognize their glorious essence. You see, this is what people did for me without me even knowing. My 4th grade teacher paying for me to play soccer and baseball because we couldn't afford it. My sophomore English teacher taking time out of his day to pull me aside and open my mind to the writings of Langston Hughes and encouraging me, Jeffon, keep writing, keep stepping towards what is calling out to you. If nobody believes in you, I do. Don't give up even if the world seems to be crumbling apart. Or my friends' parents who would take me out when they went to eat dinner so I could see what it's like to feel a little bit prosperous when we were eating food that was brought from the church. So I share this with you to be the light. Be the light in your life and be the light in the lives of others. As we come together in groups such as these, or the sacred ceremonies that we were at yesterday, we are doing our part to put into motion a positive vibration, an infinite illumination that can awaken people who may be stuck in their own darkness. Because as we shine a little bit brighter, you never know whose path you may illuminate. Now that may sound grandiose and very big. People say, Jeffon, that sounds well, but how? When people ask me that, I just like to encourage them and remind them that each moment of each day you are assisting in creating your experience. For instance, all of us in here are filled with this inner essence. We are using this inner essence to think our thoughts, to choose our choices, to commit to actions. Nobody can jump within your mind and think your thoughts for you. Nobody can jump within you and choose your choices or commit your actions through you. These are 3 keys that are with you throughout your entire experience that you have been using either consciously or unconsciously to assist in the co-creation of your life. This is why I love science of mind so much, because it doesn't put the power somewhere out there. It helps us recognize that the essence is always with us. And as we start to think in a new way, our life starts to unfold similar. Starts to reflect that inner transformation. You see, the same energy that you have used to create stress or struggle or sadness or frustration can now be used in an intentional and conscious way to create happiness or peace or gratitude or love for yourself and for all. It's not going to come from out there, jump within you, and you're this new revived person. But as you wake up to who you truly are, as this inner world starts to shift and transform, the outer world begins to reflect that change. So please remember that you are always directing yourself somewhere. One of my favorite motivational speakers, Jim Rohn, said, "It is the set of the sails and not the direction of the wind that determines which way you will go." Life will throw things at you. People may pass. Drugs, abuse. People may not recognize their inherent greatness. But you need not let those winds catch your sails and carry you towards the coldness or the darkness. You can simply shift your thoughts in a new way and allow those thoughts to be the sails that can pull you forward into the guiding light that you already are. And as these thoughts start to shift and transform, your choices begin to follow. But as we all know, you can think beautifully, you can say you're going to choose peacefully, but if you do not commit that to action, nothing seems to change. So the tree of life that you are today, it matters not how big your tree may be or how many fruits may be hanging from your branches. Where you are in this present moment is an accumulation of yesterday, of last week, last month, last year, the past decade. But in this very moment of now, you have the opportunity to be that which you have been seeking. Rumi says, that which you are looking for is that which you are looking with. So my friends, may we all draw closer to these spiritual truths and not just understand them on a mind level, but let it seep into the precious soil of our soul. And may we keep those seeds in such a fertile ground that we can water those seeds with our glorious thoughts, pulling the weeds by choosing specific choices that can carry us towards what we know we are here to do. If you say, Jeffon, I don't know what I'm here to do, I just encourage you to sit in the stillness, the peace and presence, the infinite creation that is dwelling within you, because it is always speaking. And if not, then take a walk on a cool day through one of these mountains. Just breathe and be. Recognize your connection with the sacred earth, with the sky above, with everybody around, with the essence within. And allow all of that to help inspire you to move forth into your greatness. So, in conclusion here, I'd just like to ask you guys a question. If in the last day or week or month or year or 5 years or decade, If there's been something within you that has asked you at a very deep level to share a gift that you have within you, but you've yet to share it, if you know there's greatness within you, then just simply raise your hand. And look around the room. And you can put your arms down, don't want you to get sore. But it's more than obvious that the infinite essence is asking you, begging of you to step forth into who you truly are. Because as you do so, your light expands, and as your light expands, you help other lights reawaken. So my friends, thank you for shining your light into my experience. Though this may be the only time that our paths cross, I highly doubt it, but maybe, thank you for shining your light into my experience. Though it was brief, helping me recognize more of what I am. And it's not me in this flesh, but me in this infinite essence that connects you and I. And as we start standing upon these insights, we then can say what one of my favorite authors, Napoleon Hill, said, "O divine providence, I ask not for more riches, but for more wisdom, with which to make better use out of the riches you gave me at birth, consisting in my ability to direct and control my mind to whatever ends I desire." Now, in conclusion, there's a workshop taking place a little later today. If you are able and willing, around noon, I would like to invite you out. It's a love offering basis. And it's where we can all come together and help remind each other of who we are and the light that we have within, as well as recognize the light that is flowing through others. And out there on the table, I have a creation that I've put together entitled The Book of Essence, which is a poems of inspiration, stories of empowerment, the key that unlocks the greatest you. This is something that my spirit has been asking of me to bring forth. And I didn't just let it stop in thought, I put it into action. And my great friends who you see in here in this room, we're heading off into Albuquerque, and then to Colorado, and then to Wyoming, and then to Montana, and then to Calgary, and then to Vancouver, BC, and then capping our 2-month tour off in Seattle. So if you would like to support in any way, we have beautiful shirts as well, but even just positive vibes and light, smiles and hugs and kindness does just fine. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. And from the depths of my heart, the light within me honors and recognizes the glorious light within you. Peace and blessings, and namaste.